everyone, I'm Jim and I'm obsessed with movies, and this time I'm obsessing over the nonsensical, perplexing, but at times brilliant final entry in the Dark Knight saga, The Dark Knight Rises. Christopher Nolan was initially quite hesitant to work on a third entry in the series, bringing up the whole third movie in the series usually being bad argument. However, in late 2008, Nolan had developed a storyline he was happy with and had this to say about a third chapter. The key thing that makes the third film a great possibility is that we want to finish our story rather than infinitely blowing up the balloon and expanding it. Unlike the comics, these things don't go on forever in film, and viewing it as a story with an end is useful. In 2010, it was announced David S. Goyer and Jonathan Nolan had started work on the screenplay for the movie. Goyer would eventually leave the project during pre-production to work on Man of Steel, while Jonathan continued writing the script. The film's storyline takes elements from the Batman comic book series story arc Nightfall, which was the one in which Bane cripples Batman, as well as the story arc No Man's Land, which depicts a Gotham cut off from the rest of the world and being overrun by gangs. Following the success of the Joker in The Dark Knight, studio executives wished for the Riddler to be included as the primary villain, as he was considered a similar character, and encouraged the casting of Leonardo DiCaprio. Now, DiCaprio is one of my favourite actors, and you know what, I'd like to have seen him give the Riddler a go. He can be quite unhinged when he wants to, and is an actor with a lot of nervous energy.
Excellent choice.
However, Nolan wanted the antagonist to be vastly different from the previous incarnations, and committed to using Bane instead, citing the need for a character with a physical presence within the film. He was initially unfamiliar with the character's backstory, but pointed out the appeal of an archetype, labelling it as the extreme of some type of villainy. To prepare for his role as Bane, Tom Hardy gained 30 pounds in weight and studied various fighting styles to use in the film. Christopher Nolan confirmed early on that the Joker would not return, and dismissed rumours that he considered using unused footage of Heath Ledger from The Dark Knight. Now, I understand not using him, but they don't even mention him. Surely it would honour Heath more to at least tell us where the hell the Joker is. Did he go off and have a holiday? Did he do anything? What did he do? As I've said it before and I'll say it again, after the events of Dark Knight, it makes no sense that we would never see the Joker again. Once Bane breaks out of the prison, I mean, we see Scarecrow, we see other villains, obviously we can't see Joker, but at least say what happened. You know, just tell us. To me, the Joker was such a gigantic part of Dark Knight, to not make reference to him whatsoever makes no sense to me, and actually, to me, seems inadvertently disrespectful to Heath Ledger's memory.
Even to a guy like me, that's cold.
The Dark Knight Rises had an estimated budget of 250 to 300 million, coming down to about 230 million after tax credits. Nolan elected not to film in 3D, but instead stated that he intended to focus on improving image quality and scale using the IMAX format. That bloody IMAX again, Chris. The Dark Knight Rises ended up featuring over an hour of footage shot in IMAX, and by comparison The Dark Knight contained 28 minutes. Nolan had several meetings with IMAX Vice President David Keeley to work on the logistics of projecting films in digital IMAX venues. Wally Fisher had expressed interest in shooting the film entirely in IMAX, but because of the considerable noise made by the IMAX cameras, usual cameras had to be used for shooting the film's dialogue scenes. A vehicle variation of the Batplane and Batcopter, called the Bat, was created specifically for the film, and my god, it was awesome. When designing the Bat, it was approached as if it were an actual military project, emphasising the need for it to fit into the same family as the Tumbler and the Batpod. The final version of the Bat takes its design cues from the Harrier jump jet, Bell Boeing V-22 Osprey and the Boeing AH-64 Apache. In order to make the Bat fly, it was supported by wires suspended from cranes and helicopters and mounted on a purpose-built vehicle with hydraulic controls to simulate movement. The Bat was incredible to watch. It's one of my favourite vehicles in any superhero film. I mean, look at it, it's mental. We need more vehicles like this in superhero films. It's a superb creation that doesn't rely solely on CGI. It actually has weight to it. It's actually there on screen, and I love it. Dark Knight Rises premiered in New York City on July 16th, 2012. The film was released in the US and UK on July 20th. Rises grossed over $1 billion worldwide at the box office, making it the second film in the Batman film series to earn $1 billion. In addition to being Nolan's highest grossing film, and it is also the 20th highest grossing film of all time, 7th at the time of its release. It is mental how well these films did, because they are proof that you don't have to pull out jokey, campy and real family friendly superhero movies. You can be a blockbuster that takes the material very seriously and still end up taking over the world in popularity. In fact, looking back in my lifetime, I don't think I've ever seen a trilogy blow up so much in terms of its impact on movies as the Dark Knight trilogy. I'm sure there are a few, such as obviously Lord of the Rings, no one can touch that, but this trilogy seems to be on everyone's lips for so many years, and it is further confirmation that Christopher Nolan really is a very special filmmaker. The Dark Knight Rises takes us back to Gotham City, where ever since the events of the Dark Knight, the Batman has gone into exile, Bruce Wayne has become a recluse, and there is no trace of organised crime in Gotham. Somehow. Anyway, a new villain arrives on the scene called Bane, a brutish monster with a big bone to pick with Gotham City. Meanwhile, Commissioner Gordon and a young cop called John Blake hope against hope that Batman will return to combat this beast who intends to turn Gotham against Gordon and the police force. At the same time, a beautiful jewel thief named Selina Kyle is on the prowl, stuck in the middle of good and evil. Batman is forced to return to Gotham and face his destiny, but he may have finally met his match in the evil and destructive Bane. The Dark Knight Rises is a very strange movie. It's full of bizarre and illogical plot points, and yet in a lot of areas I still think it's really good. I think where this movie succeeds is it manages to be epic, meaningful, entertaining, has that fantastic Christopher Nolan spectacle and some amazing performances. Where it fails is that in pretty much every important area, it makes no sense. This is one of those movies where I can see the flaws, but there is enough here for me to say I like it. However, certain things will always bug me and leave me frustrated that a movie I really like watching could have been a masterpiece. As I said, I enjoy many elements of Dark Knight Rises. I love the fact that Nolan wasn't afraid to go as dark and gritty as he did. It's one of the most bleak blockbusters of recent years, and I really appreciate that. Rises didn't need to lighten things up, it pulled no punches and literally grabbed you by the scruff of the neck and forced you to enter an intense world with no compromises. And you know what, this darkness could have been even more effective if the filmmakers had actually honoured the ending of The Dark Knight. The beginning of Rises really makes you groan. It takes what was a sensational ending to The Dark Knight and absolutely demolishes it with a sledgehammer. Batman went home for 8 years after a night where he said he would be a vigilante, as did Commissioner Gordon, as did all of Gotham. What the fuck? Batman changed his mind when he got in. Bruce Wayne goes back to his college days and just pisses about lying in bed watching porn for 8 years. Imagine how cool this movie would have been if it was about a vigilante Batman who had to prove himself once again to Gotham by taking down the crime circuit once again, whilst on the run from the police. I truly do not understand and will never understand Christopher Nolan's motivation, which was basically to strip away everything from what made The Dark Knight special, ignore the ending and then just give us an entirely different movie that has nothing to do with what came before. I am baffled. I mean, this film feels like Dark Knight never happened. Yes, I know they mention Harvey Dent and all that, but there isn't even a passing mention to the Joker, and I do really think they needed to be.
No city is without crime, but this city is without organized crime.
Right, there may be no organised crime, Batman, but you know what Gotham's like? Scarecrow's in prison, Joker's in prison. We've seen how easy it is to fucking break out. So why don't you just operate in Gotham? Don't go home for 8 years wanking, hang around in Gotham, take up minor crime, whatever, just in case they break out. Can I just shock you? I know Tom Hardy gets a lot of shit as Bane, but I really like him. I love how he actually made an effort to get as big as possible. He's an incredible physical specimen. He also ends up being unique, mysterious and incredibly intimidating. Even if you hate Hardy as Bane, you have to admit you've never seen a villain like this on film. It's truly a one-of-a-kind performance and take on the character. People obviously like to shit on his voice, but hey, at least it's better than fucking Bale's. For me, when people say Bale's voice fits the character, I disagree. But I would say that the voice for Bane, I do think it fits the character. However, I can see why it rubbed some people the wrong way. I don't know, ever since I was a kid, I always wondered how Bane would sound, and I knew it had to be a bit weird. It had to be a bit special. He wouldn't just sound like a guy, he would sound menacing and striking, but a bit bizarre too. And I think he does in this film.
Theatricality and deception. Powerful agents to the uninitiated. But we are initiated, aren't we, Bruce?
Members of the League of Shadows. And you betrayed us.
Bane has some superb lines, especially in the scene where he is fighting Batman, but of course he also gets dragged down by the insane script that forces him to say a lot of illogical rubbish. This could have been an iconic performance until you find out Bane is doing all of this for love and is actually doing it for Talia. As soon as that revelation arrives, nearly all of Bane's menace is gone. Up to that point you think he's doing this because he's an evil genius brute who wants to take over Gotham, but in fact he's at the beck and call of Talia al Ghul. "Oh, come in Talia darling, more sugar in your tea, I'm cooking dinner as we speak, can I be your footstool?" Another truly bonkers part of Bane's character is that he somehow manages to make the entire of Gotham believe in his bullshit, whilst threatening them with a bomb. He's holding the city at ransom with a bomb, and yet they still accept everything he says, hook, line and sinker. You know that guy threatening us with a bomb? He says the police is corrupt and lied once. Alright, I don't give a fuck mate, fuck him off. Hey everyone, Commissioner Gordon lied once. Right, let's break out the Joker, break out the Scarecrow, get all the serial killers out, let's have anarchy! Anarchy in the UK, anarchy in Gotham. I mean, sure, Bane has a few good arguments, but to be honest, it may be hard to admit, but every fucking tyranny in the world would have at least one good point. Hitler, he was a cunt, he was evil, he probably had a few microscopic good points somewhere in all the bullshit. The character of Alfred is a big glaring issue. His character has completely changed.
You're afraid that if I go back out there, I'll fail.
I'm afraid that you want to.
Yes, because I really want my back broken by a man who could flick Brock Lesnar and beat him. What's wrong with you, Al? Alfred is a prick in this film. He offers Bruce no support whatsoever, and that's exactly what Alfred is supposed to be. He's not supposed to give up on Bruce. His character has totally and completely changed to suit a plot contrivance. But as I said, just like Tom Hardy, Michael Caine is playing this material incredibly well and somehow elevating it and making it mean something. I must say, Anne Hathaway is actually pretty damn good as Selina Kyle and Catwoman. However, one thing I thought ever since I saw this film, who agrees that the roles should have been swapped between the two females? To me, Marion Cotillard looks and feels a lot more like Selina Kyle. However, that means Hathaway had a lot more to prove for me, and she ends up being pretty good. She's very entertaining, charismatic, and at times very faithful to the Catwoman we know and love. Also quite like her costume. It's very X-Men, but I feel like it fits the universe and is enough cat-like for me to see it as a Catwoman suit. Christian Bale has some pretty good chemistry with Anne Hathaway, and the scene in which they dance at a party is a nice little nod to Batman Returns, and I enjoyed it. That scene showed me Nolan is not completely against reliving the previous Batman movies in his universe. Also loved the moment where Catwoman and Batman are fighting thugs on a roof before Bane arrives to try and capture them. I think it's an iconic image, and it's always good to see two of my favourite comic book characters doing what they do best by each other's side. Bane looks so menacing when he walks out onto the roof, causing the good guys to scarper. It's like I said in certain scenes, Bane looks like the baddest man on the planet. Bruce's relationship with Selina makes me laugh. After Selina refuses to apologise for locking Bruce in fucking Hell in a Cell with Bane, where he has his back broken, Bruce still likes her. You were whipped, mate. She locked you in. Fucking lock up with Bane. And you still forgave her, even though she never said sorry. Come on, mate. And later on, she's still fucking around being a bitch. I mean, I know Catwoman goes back and forth in the comics, but this Catwoman's just a bitch. To the point of almost helping to end Batman's life. I mean, Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman was easier to trust, and she was a complete fruitcake. Although the two actors have chemistry, it does feel like Bruce and Selina fall in love simply for the sake of the script. There really isn't much of a journey for this relationship. The characters simply say what they need to say and feel what they need to feel whenever the script tells them to. Christian Bale himself puts in a pretty good performance as Bruce Wayne and Batman, but the voice is at shocking levels in this one. It somehow got worse. He sounds like a complete donkey. However, to be fair to him, in one scene he regains his Batman Begins Batman voice and it sounds fantastic. But it's the only time in the entire film, a few seconds where he sounds good in a 2.5 hour movie.
Tell me where the trigger is. Then you have my permission to die.
For that one line, he sounds badass. He sounds like Batman. The rest of the film, Christian Bale was truly having a laugh, this time with the voice. And I know people say Christopher Nolan altered it, but how much can you alter it? You know, he couldn't have been doing the Batman Begins voice. You can't make the Batman Begins voice, alter it and make it sound like this. You can't. He must have been pissing about as well. This time it was literally out of control, and Christopher Nolan really should have stepped in, or someone should have stepped in when Christopher Nolan was in the editing room. Whoever was responsible, someone should have burst in and just said, just stop. I mean, he needed to be stopped. Whoever was doing it, whoever was fucking around with the voice, Christian Bale, Nolan, whoever. However, Bale still brings charisma and a superstar aura to the character of Batman, and as Bruce Wayne, he's kind of gone back to the Batman Begins vulnerability and he pulls it off really well. You really root for Bruce in this film. He's very sympathetic and relatable, and once again he has something to prove with the chips stacked against him. I don't know, I've always thought Christian Bale plays a good underdog. He's able to bring this grounded approach to Bruce Wayne that makes him believable and very human. So of course, Bane breaks his back in one of the greatest film scenes in recent years. Seriously, it's gritty, dark, intense, the lack of music makes you feel every blow. It's an absolutely brutal and uncompromising scene. I really commend Chris Nolan for not dramatising this scene with music and special moves and crazy athleticism. It is literally an intense slugfest, which eventually becomes a visceral beatdown. While doing promotional interviews for the film, Tom Hardy stated that the most difficult part of the movie was this scene, not because of the physicality, but because he was such a huge Batman fan growing up, that he said, "It felt like I was beating up my childhood hero." However, he also said that despite his worship of the character, the moment Christopher Nolan yelled action, Hardy just started throwing punches as hard as he could. Can't hit him as Batman, I grew up watching him, Adam West, all that, I loved it, sitting in front of TV as a kid. I can't do it, Chris, I can't do it. Right, come here you fucking cunt, I'm gonna knock you out! Of course, Bane decides not to kill Bruce, but to instead trap him in the prison in which he grew up, where Bruce can watch Gotham slowly collapse. It's a sadistic idea, and it's one of the things Bane does in this movie that actually makes sense. But of course, the madness of these scenes is Bruce's sudden ability to recover. When this film opens, Bruce has been injured for 8 years because of about a year of operating in Gotham City. His leg is permanently injured. He walks with a walking stick. Then he gets his back broken and he can suddenly recover in a matter of days thanks to some old guy cracking his back.
Right.
I do think the scene where he finally escapes the prison is pretty fantastic because of the idea that no one has ever escaped. It's pretty darn epic. But at the same time, it only takes Bruce 3 attempts. No one's ever escaped, Bruce. Right, I'm gonna have a go. I failed that one time. Try again. I can't do it. I did it! Yeah! It can't be that hard, can it, you fuckers? I'm out! The funny thing is, when Bruce does escape, we see him emerge into the middle of nowhere. Woohoo! I'm free! I'm in the middle of Croatia with no fucking money. How the fuck am I going to get home? The character of John Blake is an awesome addition to the film. Joseph Gordon-Levitt puts in a great performance as the young cop who longs for the return of Batman. He's a great character because he's the light of this movie. Everyone else is very negative and hateful, and has kind of given up, but John Blake is optimistic, he believes things can get better, and he has this youthful passion for justice. He's also a big fan of Batman and never believed what everyone else did, that Batman was responsible for what was pinned on him. Of course, Blake's character is a victim of the odd writing of this film. Blake visits Bruce and reveals he knows he's Batman because he's an orphan too, and when he was a child he saw that same look on Bruce Wayne's face that he knows all too well for himself. To be fair, this speech is fantastic and the performances of Levitt and Bale are epic, but what he is saying is gobbledygook. Blake should have been a detective, put his all into finding out who Batman was. Just like Tim Drake in the comics, he put all of his effort into finding out who Batman was, and that's how he worked it out, and that's how he became Robin. And then, finally discovers it's Bruce. Him being an orphan too and just having that connection with Bruce and realising he's Batman is a real cop-out. What about all the other orphans of Gotham? Do they know Bruce is Batman too? I seriously want to know if Christopher Nolan was hanging out with Cheech and fucking Chong when he wrote some of this movie. Blake is a great character to watch though because he stands on the side of good in a city that struggles to believe in it, and seeing him try to protect the school kids during the war at the end is awesome because he doesn't give up and he keeps his optimism to the very end. Personally, I think Gary Oldman's best performance of the trilogy was in Dark Knight, but he still brings a lot to this film. However, I feel like he's one of the biggest victims of the absurd script, as he is forced to say some truly stupid things and you lose empathy for him because in this movie, unlike the last one, he's basically portrayed as a complete moron. However, he still has a few moments where he shines, and don't get me wrong, he's still the best Commissioner Gordon there's ever been. Marion Cotillard, as I said, would probably have been a better Catwoman. Her character is a complete nonsense. She's Ra's al Ghul's daughter and is in fact pulling the strings of Bane and the whole scheme the entire time. Nolan obviously wanted to have a massive twist ending for some reason. That moment where Talia suddenly stabs Batman is ludicrous. From that point on, she reveals she was the brains behind everything, and was the only person to escape the prison Bruce escaped, when she was a little child. No one can escape this prison apart from a little girl playing with My Little Pony who once did. But it's very difficult to escape. I feel like the culmination of this film really suffers due to this bizarre turn of events. Of course, Batman ends up making the supreme sacrifice by flying off out to sea with the bomb. And this ending, part of me finds it really entertaining, epic and meaningful. Part of me's just like, what the fuck is this? From my understanding, and I may be wrong, Bruce once again flees Gotham, this time with Selina, a proven liar and untrustworthy woman, but hey, he loves her now I guess. And Alfred is all happy because he sees Bruce finally happy. To be honest, I don't understand why running away with Selina solves all Bruce's problems. He's known her a week. I mean, I'd say running away with Selina would bring you more problems. It wouldn't solve them, fucking causing them. Also, Batman quits yet again. I mean, sure he got rid of a bomb, but Adam West got rid of a bomb. What about other crime? Nolan's Batman seems to think every time he solves a crime, no crime will ever happen again. I don't like the overarching theme of Rises, that Batman doesn't want to be Batman. It goes against everything Batman stands for. Alfred is not constantly telling Bruce to quit. They have both accepted this is the way things are, and they know they have to carry on to make sure what happened to him as a child never happens to anyone else. This Batman fakes his death like a coward and buggers off to bloody France to live it up drinking margaritas, leaving John Blake to, I guess, become the new Batman. But how did he know that he definitely would? And also, how is that fair? Yes, I guess you could say, oh, Bruce didn't completely abandon Gotham, he left John Blake to be Batman. But how's Blake gonna cope? He's got no Alfred, no training, no forewarning, no abilities. I mean, he's literally just handed in the costume and said, do it mate, just fucking do it. You gonna train me? Nah, fuck it, I'm going off to shag in France. But I can't handle it, Bruce. Oh well, best of luck. Bye, love you, bye. Strangely enough, I think the way this ending is edited and executed is really epic. Somehow Chris Nolan is able to make ludicrous material resonate with his incredible direction and techniques. Overall, The Dark Knight Rises is a movie that collapses in on itself if you focus on the script. However, if you turn your attention to the atmosphere and the characters, the performances, the execution, it's quite good. If you can manage to watch it just as an entertaining movie, it works. But coming after two of the most intelligent superhero movies ever made, it really stands out like a sore thumb. I enjoy watching it, but I cannot defend the flaws. They are not nitpicks, they are main story elements that just do not work. It is still an exhilarating, epic and intense ride for me though, and I look at this as the Batman Forever of the Nolan series. It's fun and entertaining, but it's pure surface level entertainment. And there's nothing wrong with that, it's just sad that it is clearly trying to be more than that, and fails miserably.
Oops.
The Dark Knight Rises received positive reviews from critics. Rotten Tomatoes gave The Dark Knight Rises an approval rating of 87% based on 345 reviews, and a rating average of 8 out of 10. The site's critical consensus reads, The Dark Knight Rises is an ambitious, thoughtful, and potent action film that concludes Christopher Nolan's franchise in spectacular fashion. Mark Kermode and Zoe Ball's review pissed me off particularly, when they were almost in tears about how beautiful this film apparently was. But to be fair, Mark Kermode is the man who hates Star Wars and says Twilight is better.
You're weird.
No, I'm not weird. I'm not weird.
Look, I understand the world lost their mind when this movie came out, and I do like the film, but no one in their right state of mind can look at this film and say it's flawless. And many people did. And if you didn't, you were threatened with violence. This is certainly one of the aspects of internet culture I hate these days. If you don't agree a movie is perfect, you get death threats or bullied. Rises just doesn't hold up, it doesn't hang completely together for me, and I'm sorry, but I'm not going to be completely blinded just because it is Christopher Nolan. The Dark Knight Rises inspired a video game of the same name, released on the same day as the film. The game features an open world with a focus on stealth and combat. The combat style of the game is inspired, well, ripped off from Arkham Asylum and Arkham City. The game received mediocre reviews, and yeah, I have to agree, it's basically just a poor man's Arkham City, and it feels somewhat glitchy and incomplete. To be fair though, it's quite faithful to the film, fun but full of flaws. I feel like if they'd have spent a little bit more time on this game, it could have been really good. A bit like the film. A novelisation of Rises, written by author Greg Cox and published by Titan Books, was released alongside the film on July 24th, 2012. Maybe one day I will read that book to see if he fixes any of the issues. Like, you know, how did Bruce get back to Gotham? Maybe he hitchhiked with Harry and Lloyd or something. So The Dark Knight Rises is a difficult one to sum up. I like the film, I find it really entertaining, I find it really well made, there's some really memorable scenes, but my god is the script an absolute clusterfuck. The script makes me want to shit the bed, it's insane. But anyway, it's still an entertaining film, it's not as well written obviously as the first two, it is a disappointing combination, but I can watch it and I can enjoy a lot of things about it. What do you guys think of The Dark Knight Rises? Thanks for watching everyone, I'm Jim and I'm obsessed with movies, and it's my job to make you just as obsessed as I am. And if you'd like to subscribe, you can go ahead, because I've got many more retrospectives and reviews on this channel and many more planned. My next one is going to be Man of Steel, so stay tuned for that. Thanks for watching guys, and I will see you in the next video.